The girl on the train simply needed to use the bathroom urgently, yet the next second she was horrified to discover that car number 5, which contained the toilets, had strangely vanished without a trace. The astonished Lily thought she had encountered a ghost wall and was so frightened that she hurriedly told this discovery to the train attendant. At first the man did not believe what Lily said until she followed along and he also saw the missing rear car. The attendant then felt extremely shocked, but in order not to cause panic among the passengers he could only pretend to stay calm, turn around and lock the door, planning to make everyone forget about the disappearance of the rear car. Unexpectedly, right at that moment, a man suddenly walked over. "My mother is in the toilet." In order not to let the matter be exposed, he could only tell the man to go to the front cars to take care of it. Who would have thought that? Right then the man glanced and saw that the rear was completely empty. In panic he asked the man why the rear car had disappeared. This statement quickly attracted everyone's attention. They all stood up to see what exactly had happened and began questioning the attendant about where the rear car had gone. Seeing that the situation was about to become uncontrollable, the attendant could only immediately explain that car number 5 had actually developed some malfunction and had therefore detached in the tunnel just now to be sent for maintenance. Once the repairs were successful, the staff would immediately bring it back to reunite with everyone. After hearing the man's explanation, everyone finally let out a long breath and relaxed, little knowing that at that moment the attendant's mind was full of confusion. In order to figure out the reason behind this, he then began investigating the train. Unexpectedly, the next second he saw a terrifying sight. The train's distribution box was actually overgrown with weeds and large amounts of sticky liquid were flowing on it. Just as the man was puzzled, the next second he turned his head and discovered that in the reflection of the glass the figures of the passengers from car number 5 faintly appeared, but strangely the next second they disappeared without a trace again. The attendant originally thought it was a hallucination caused by his long high-intensity work. Just as he was preparing to take a closer look, he ran into the train conductor, who happened to walk out of the driver's cabin. Seeing this, the man hurriedly reported the disappearance of car number 5 to his superior. The conductor was very surprised after hearing it, because for the train to derail it must go through his operation. External force simply could not separate it. In order to clarify the whole story of the incident, the conductor had no choice but to check the surveillance of car number 5, yet unexpectedly the screen only showed full snowflakes. Not only that, all the equipment on the train had already stopped working and become unusable. In order not to cause panic among the passengers, he could only order the attendant not to leak any information. Yet what they never expected was that at that moment the train was slowly entering a pitch-black tunnel. Because of this, the passengers on the train would soon know what exactly had happened inside car number 5. In just a blink of an eye, waves of piercing strange screams rose one after another. Before the passengers could realize what was going on, the man who was singing at the top of his voice was tightly choked by the neck by a supernatural force. The next second the companions beside him also began falling one after another. The passengers had planned to step forward to help, yet little did they know that at that moment they themselves were also in danger, and all successively followed in their footsteps. Some people seemed as if they had been possessed, murmuring continuously and chanting something. At that moment a cameraman had planned to record this scene, yet the next second an extremely terrifying demon suddenly appeared above the car. After just one glance the cameraman's facial features deformed. Coincidentally, right then the girl from car number 3 happened to arrive at the connection point of the train, and she thus took in the entire sight of the passengers' deaths in car number 4. As the train slowly exited the tunnel, car number 4 also parted ways with the main train and remained forever inside the pitch-black tunnel. When the people who realized something was wrong rushed over to investigate, car number 4 had already vanished without a trace. Seeing that everyone still did not know what had happened, the girl could only fully recount everything she had just seen. Although it was hard to believe, everyone still had no choice but to accept the reality. At that moment someone quickly put forward a conjecture that every time they entered a tunnel the last car of the train would be attacked by the demon. In other words, the next time they entered a tunnel those in car number 3 would face their death. In order not to be killed, the girl then proposed that they could temporarily go to car number 2 for refuge. Yet the passengers in car number 2 were all wealthy and noble and would not easily let common people enter, let alone the bearded man who knew their thoughts and was the attendant of car number 2. In order to make the few of them give up this idea, he then turned and returned to the front, leaving the few of them to fend for themselves. The unaware nobles were still immersed in singing and dancing, yet had not discovered that the curse had actually already spread here. The man saw the water weeds that did not belong here and his heart immediately sank. He never thought the matter would develop so rapidly. In order not to cause panic among the nobles, the man could only quietly dispose of the water weeds and then immediately rushed to the conductor's office, urgently asking what they should do. Little did he know that at that moment the conductor was also very anxious. Because the communication equipment had failed, they were now like a moving isolated island and simply had no way at all. After hearing this, the bearded man then proposed that they could accelerate toward the destination to stop, so that they could not only allow the nobles to settle as quickly as possible and also contact the police at the first opportunity to handle the incident. Just as the conductor also expressed agreement with this, the next second he was shocked to discover that the monitor had actually filmed the entire ghost attack incident. The bearded man understood very well that if the outside world learned that their train had encountered ghosts, their future business would plummet more than just a little, and this would also be a destructive blow to their career plans. The conductor heard this and agreed it was true, so he immediately deleted all the recordings completely in order to bury the truth of the missing cars. But now there was still one fatal problem. If the woman publicized this matter to the world, the consequences would clearly be something the few of them could not bear, let alone if the nobles outside found out, their company would inevitably be unable to stand in this industry. With no other choice, the conductor could only pretend that nothing nothing had happened and go alone to car number 3, first persuading the nobles to return to car number 2 in order to isolate them from contact with the woman. Soon the train once again drove into a tunnel while some unaware nobles were still leisurely enjoying dinner, little knowing that at that moment half of their feet had already stepped into the underworld. Following the direction from which the sounds came, everyone present soon realized something was wrong and followed the man evacuating forward. Unexpectedly, they had only walked a few steps when the man suddenly saw a strange figure. No one expected the demon to have appeared here so quickly. In order not to attract its attention, the group could only lower their heads and quietly transfer forward. Who would have thought that the next second they seemed to be bound and became unable to move, and in just the blink of an eye large numbers of demons suddenly emerged around the group. They continuously disappeared and reappeared between the flickering lights, and this strange scene truly startled everyone. No one dared to act rashly for fear of suffering the demons' revenge, yet continuing like this was also not a long-term solution, so they could only try to slowly move forward. Coincidentally, at that moment Lily accidentally caught a glimpse of this terrifying scene. She had planned to call people to go together for rescue, yet it was still one step too late. The next second car number 3 slowly disconnected from them, and the passengers inside those cars were left forever in the tunnel by the demons. After this incident, the nobles in car number 2 also sensed something was wrong. Drag it to the Red Bridge. Yet now the few of them had no time to explain. The most urgent matter at present was to quickly stop the train before the 4th tunnel arrived, otherwise everyone here would not escape death. Yet what no one expected was that the bearded man stood out and shifted all the blame onto the 3 people from economy class. After all, several cars had already disappeared one after another, yet they had always evacuated safely without a single hair harm. He found it hard not to suspect that these demons had been brought by the 3 of them, or that the 3 of them themselves were demons. Facing such a frame-up, the 3 were extremely speechless, yet because of their low status they could not offer any explanation and could only allow the conductor's group to freely smear them. They even turned and drilled into car number 1 and had the conductor tightly lock the cabin door. Seeing this, the group once again fell into despair and could only watch helplessly as the train once again drove into the tunnel. In just an instant, piercing screams once again came from inside the car. Coincidentally, right then the 3 also saw an extremely terrifying scene. An evil spirit appeared once more right in front of them. Under the other side's powerful spiritual pressure, humans simply could not contend with it and could only allow the evil spirit to freely manipulate them until they died, reporting it. Only the few people standing at the gap luckily escaped this wave of disaster, yet now they also had no way at all and could only continuously knock on the glass seeking help from the people in car number 1. Fortunately, the conductor finally found his conscience and at the last moment let the few of them in. Yet soon an even more severe fact was placed before everyone's eyes. Only one car section remained. If they entered a tunnel again, then everyone would not escape death. In order to preserve their own lives, the conductor immediately made a decision that went against the ancestors. He forcefully pulled down the motor and applied emergency braking. Accompanied by sparks and lightning all the way, they finally successfully stopped this deadly train. Everyone originally thought they had successfully escaped with their lives, yet the next second they suddenly discovered that the evil spirit was slowly walking up following the tunnel. It turned out that because the sun had already set at that moment, the dark territory everywhere was the domain of the evil spirit. At that moment the group once again became lambs waiting to be slaughtered and could only scatter and flee, trying as much as possible to escape from the evil spirit's hands. Yet facing an existence this terrifying, in just a blink of an eye large numbers of humans were completely swallowed by the vines controlled by the evil spirit. As the nutrients inside their bodies were gradually squeezed dry, they finally successfully merged with the large trees. It turned out that this place was originally a forest, yet because of humans' excessive exploitation and construction, large numbers of trees had been cut down, which directly caused the evil spirit to lose its place of survival, so it appeared to take revenge on humans. From this it can be seen that protecting nature is actually protecting humans themselves. The causes one plants will finally be the fruits one has to bear.